Good morning, everyone. Ricardo Wilkins here, Microsoft Customer Success Manager. Glad to see you for another week of C.U.T.E office hours, Champions Using Teams Effectively. I will be your host, Ricardo, and in the background, lurking quietly, is my colleague Stacy. She's helping with Q&A, and you may hear her chime in from time to time. But
Yep, happy to be here.
yeah, Yeah, we're both happy that you joined. As always, we're just here to chat. Um, you know, uh, put questions at any time in the Q&A box, and we will try to address them as we can. And then, as always, I always try to find something to talk about in the meantime while you're thinking of your questions. So we'll do that as well. And this week, last week actually, someone asked about talking about meeting notes. So I thought I would talk about that this week. That sounded like a good idea. So we'll do that. But again, whether it's meeting notes, questions, or any question, again, feel free to use your chat Q&A box to put those questions in. But let's talk here about meeting notes. So if you don't know what those are, let's fire up a meeting here and actually see it in action. But it really brings up to me the question in general of taking notes in a meeting period. So while I'll start off showing meeting notes, I'll also show some other ways to get it done as well, and and then give my personal thoughts on meeting notes. I will say, in general, I don't use that meeting notes feature. Probably mostly because I'm such a OneNote fan, have always been a OneNote fan. And so if I had an opportunity to put some notes somewhere, it's going to be OneNote. My brain's just wired that way, I think. So just put that caveat out there first off. And so let's see, let's just start up a new meeting. Start this meeting here with the Meet Now button. Ask me about my preferences. I'll go ahead and join. And then I'll go ahead and add my friend Nestor here as well, so we can see how other people interact with the notes that I put. So let me call Nestor. He is here. He's going to accept, join. And I'll go ahead and minimize him and maximize this. So we're in this meeting together, me and Nestor, and I want to use the meeting notes feature. 3 dots here are more actions, and then meeting notes. And you can see, go ahead and start taking notes. So I will take the notes, and what it does is kind of fires that whole thing up and then takes me over to my Teams environment where I've now got, this is the meeting I'm in. We're used to seeing that. May not be used to seeing, the tabs for that meeting, but we do have a meeting notes tab, and here is where I can start to add notes. On Nestor's side, in the chat window, he's seen that Ricardo has just started up some notes, and if he clicks, he also is taken to his chat area. Now, Nestor's in the browser experience. So this looks a little different, but he's taken back to his chat and to the meeting notes tab. And you can see he also is now seeing a note. So as I'm flipping back and forth here, but as I am typing and putting new stuff here, Nestor is seeing it come, pretty much, just like typical sync. He's seeing it, and he can participate as well. And if I go over back to Ricardo, Ricardo is seeing those notes as well. So real-time co-authoring with these notes for sure. And what you are hopefully seeing here, obviously titled with the title of the meeting. But to me, one of the big differences, or one of the things with notes, is this whole sections concept. So you can see they try to make it easy to add a new section, which would be essentially a title of that section and then any notes. And when you're doing notes, those notes are essentially like a chat, as you can see from the controls here. So I can still do things like, bullet points, even throwing in like a table if I needed to. I could do that here as well. All the things of a typical, maybe not all the things, but most of the things of a typical chat message could go in there. I know it's going to sound like I'm a meeting notes hater, but one of the other things, reason I prefer like a OneNote instead of these MyNotes is that I'm also, not only am I a OneNote fanatic, I'm also a big screenshot fanatic. I love to put screenshots of things in my notes to, help with visualize things. And that is not possible here. Even though I can put screenshots in my typical chat message, I can't put them here. So that's a bummer for me. For someone like me who likes to use screenshots, it's not being able to put those as part of the notes. But from a conceptual perspective, you are seeing, how this goes. And again, if I switch back to Nestor here, he's seeing the same notes all real time. So with that very short demo, let me talk about what I think are a few caveats. So one, and you can see all of this, I'm actually going to put this link in the Q&A chat, the support link for taking notes. They start with a few caveats, and I'll just put it on the screen here as well. Come here and put it there. So few caveats, and the big one is really it's people in the same org that can access notes. So if your meeting's full of external folks, there would be one reason why you might not want to use meeting notes. You might want to use something else that's a little more external person friendly. If you got big meetings, keep in mind meeting notes are available on up to 100 people. And then the other one that can get tricky, even with your internal meeting notes participants, only people invited to a meeting before notes created will have access to them initially. So you saw that in my example here, Nestor accessed these with no problem. However, if I had actually, let's go ahead and add Deborah to this meeting. Let's just go all out. Actually, I'm in the wrong thing. Let's go here. I'm gonna add Deborah. Let me get her started here. I'm gonna add her. It's going to call her. Let's do it one more time. Deborah. Calling Deborah. Deborah accepts. She joins. She's in. And so, on the call, I say, hey, Deborah, we're doing some meeting notes in this meeting. You should check them out. So, but you can see here, she doesn't even see them in the chat. If I come over to the chat where this meeting resides, which should be, I think, this one here, she does have the meeting notes tab. And boom, you'll need permission from Ricardo to access the meeting notes. She is an internal person, but she was added to the meeting after I started up the meeting notes. And so now she's got that. Meanwhile, Nestor, who is also a colleague within the org, is seeing them just fine. So that's really what that little message there is talking about. So some caveats. In my opinion, this works great, for like your scheduled meetings with participants already in there. Your team is always using Teams. You don't do a lot of sharing outside of the team. I feel like the meeting notes concept would work well there. If you have a lot of meetings that involve externals, if you have a lot of ad hoc meetings where you're, adding people on the fly, then maybe not so much. And then of course the actual note-taking experience you might feel is limiting as well. But I think its biggest advantage, or what probably makes it so enticing, is being in this meeting and literally seeing it right there, and you're like one click away from starting to take notes. And in the case of Nestor, who was in the meeting when I started, he was one click away. He got the message as part of the chat. He's one click away from seeing those notes and participating as well. So that easy button aspect, I think, is the most enticing part of it. But again, it kind of assumes all the rest of those caveats are in place. So that's the basic meeting notes experience. I think it's a little different if this was a channel meeting, but in general, same concept. Now, let me go back here to these meeting notes. So we're seeing we should be used to the fact that when we're in a meeting, that meeting exists here in our chat area, especially useful for after the meeting's over and we want to do follow-ups. So we'd have the chat from the meeting that's here. We got a tab for if we were sharing files, those files would be aggregated here. And now in this case, we've got meeting notes also added to this as well. So after the meeting, coming back to this meeting, in theory, one could see the conversation of the meeting, the thumbnail of the recording, the meeting notes that got taken during the meeting, and even the files that were shared. So that's all gravy. That's good stuff. Now that plus symbol is there, and there are some other things we can add to enhance the meeting as well. And this includes our government customers. Meeting extensions are a part of GCC now. And so, for instance, since this meeting is geeking out on all these tabs in their meeting, let's try some other ones, right? So, for instance, Poly for doing a survey or or a question in the meeting. So Ricardo's now adding Poly here. Experience may be different. I don't have it, as it says, I don't have an active subscription, but I think I can at least do one here. Create a quick question, let's say for the meeting. What's your favorite color? I don't even know how to spell chartreuse, so why did I even try? But I figured I'd put that in there. And look at all of these things. I don't want it to be anonymous, let's say, and I'll hit save. Okay. So I got this here. So that's Ricardo putting it. If I look at, let's say, Nestor's experience as he's in the meeting, go over to chat. We're not seeing anything yet. I don't think Deborah's seeing anything either, other than the fact that I have added Poly there. I think on my end, I then proceed to send now. Boom, some things are happening. So in my meeting experience, I'm seeing this pop up there. I think, so we see Deborah and Nestor are seeing it in chat. I think if they were in the desktop client, they would have seen it pop up in the meeting like I'm seeing it here. So the question pops up in the middle. I can answer it here and submit. Boom, it's done. Go over to whatever Nestor is looking at. For instance, you can see my vote is in there. That he can vote. Deborah can vote. So that's one. And as I go over back to the meeting area, you can see now Poly is one of the, one of the tabs now as part of this meeting. Okay. For me, it's the place to create. For Deborah and Nestor, if they come over, they get Poly, but it's really just a place to see, I think. Let's cancel that. Yeah, I think I messed something up there. Let's go here, chat. I know I'm clicking around a lot. It's 3 personas going on here. And Deborah or Nestor doesn't see anything there unless I'm on the wrong meeting. I may be on the wrong meeting, no, I'm in the right meeting. Not sure why Nestor's not seeing it here, but we're essentially in the meeting though. We did see the experience for that, and you can see here a little symbol for Poly popped up as well. Okay, so we got all of that there, and there are others that could be added as well, right? That plus symbol. if I scroll down, I mean, lots of third-party apps here. There's YouTube and, all kinds of things that can be added here. So that really just kind of helps us see meeting notes is just one in-meeting experience that we can provide here. If there was a website that was, important to this meeting, that'd be easy to add. Some Power BI report. And then I guess the last thing I was really kind of leading into was, if you are a OneNote fan like me, then why not create a OneNote notebook for the meeting? So here I am in the meeting using the OneNote tab. There is an existing notebook that I've created. It's in my OneDrive. I don't want to use that. I want to make a new one for this meeting. Let's call it Meeting 2. And in a few seconds, we then would have a notebook in this meeting. Let's take a look at what the experience is for Deborah and folks. So Deborah doesn't see anything in her chat about it. If we go here, I don't want to do that. It's definitely trying to get the poly thing going for the rest of the attendees, but here's Meeting 2. So she is able to obviously see the notebook, but again, this is real-time co-authoring. So she's in the notebook, she's got access to it. I'm back here in my notebook, and after some sync, I'm sure I would see hers come through. There we go. So not one click like meeting notes, but maybe 3 clicks, and I've got a notebook, which is certainly going to be a lot more shareable, as an office file per se. So being a OneNote fan, I feel like I would prefer using OneNote here in this instance. So again, lots of different things you could add to this to do meetings. People also ask about whiteboards. In commercial, you have the native whiteboard. In government, that's coming soon. But there are other whiteboard apps. I think Freehand, for instance, is right there. I think Mural's another one that doesn't seem to be in my list here. But there are whiteboard apps as well. So again, all these in-meeting experiences are capable, both in commercial and GCC, to just add additional value and interactivity to your meetings. So I know in the government space, we're waiting on more poll options. As you can see, I mean, this is a government tenant. You have third-party poll options right now as we speak. But if you're waiting on a native like forms-based polls, those are coming soon. So you've got some ways to do both whiteboarding and polling today, and you will have more options coming soon. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So that's my thoughts on meetings. It probably feels like I'm really downplaying them. I just think that's because I'm a OneNote person, and if you check my blog or whatever, you will see how fanatical I am about OneNote. I've got tons of videos and blog posts about it. So that should be no surprise to anyone that knows me.
We do have a question.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I know the answer to this. And as you're a OneNote fanatic too, you'll probably you might have a answer. Can you convert previous meeting notes from the Teams meetings notes to a OneNote easily?
I don't think so.
I think it's cut and paste, right? I think you have to pull out the content and paste it on a new page in OneNote.
Because even as we're going around here, I mean, I can move sections around, but there's not a lot going on here by way of other functionality. So, and to some degree, I feel like that simplicity is by design. I mean, we don't want a complicated thing. We want to just be able to take notes. Maybe that was the vision. But yeah, I think the short answer is no. There's not an easy button for turning this into OneNote notes. It would just be a copy paste kind of thing, and even that, I don't know, how nice that would look. I can actually try it with the one we just did, meeting 2, and then paste that in and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, Control V. Yeah, that table, for instance, got butchered. So maybe your basic text with bullets might be okay. I mean, even those section headers came through kind of nicely. My table did not come through very well at all. Or at least the borders of the table didn't. So yeah, so no easy button, but potentially maybe a cut and paste, depending on how elaborate the notes are, might come through. I think someone's asking about my blog, which is Teamwork Cowbell, www.teamworkcowbell.com. So that's where you'll find all of my musings about all things really teams and collaboration. Before I was a Teams guy, I was a SharePoint guy. And so there's also SharePoint Cowbell.com as well. Oops, not SharePoint work. SharePoint Cowbell as well. Haven't updated that in a while, but there's a ton of content there if you're a SharePoint person. Got a lot of content there as well. But yeah, the Teamwork Cowbell, and then yeah, I've got some other blogs too, but that's probably the one you're looking for. I think that's your question. So yeah, so the meeting notes, and I think the other thing I was going to say too, I guess one advantage to the meeting notes, if we go back here, is that I can mention people in the meeting. So hit the @ symbol, and Nestor and Deborah are both in this meeting, so they are available for mentioning. So maybe this note, I don't know if I call this an assignment, but it certainly would, bring Deborah to its attention. I think she's still going to have an issue until I fix her. You can see here until I fix her access issue, but it does let her know. If I were to mention Nestor, let's mention him here, I think he'll have pretty good experience. So there's that. I come back over to Nestor. Nestor was mentioned. He clicks on that and goes right to the note. So the mentioning, at least today, there's no mentioning that I'm aware of in OneNote, and maybe not any of the other meeting notes. So that could be another advantage to the meeting notes, is the ability to mention. I would have liked to see an mention anybody even outside of the meeting, but it seems to be specific to the meeting attendees. So that's another thing worth mentioning. But yeah, when it comes to sharing out what you have done, that's where the challenges would come into play, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that's, thinking if I had any other thing about meeting notes specifically. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, the last thing I was going to say is, in practice, I tend to see people if it's going to be basic text notes, I just see them put it in the chat window. I have seen people, just document or scribe right in the chat window. Probably just because that's even easier, and there's nothing to click other than just to start typing. It's not collaborative. I mean, that's one person's post, so I think meeting notes have a little bit of a advantage over the chatting in the chat window, in that it is collaborative and whatnot. But that's what I usually see in meetings, is when people are taking notes, they're doing it right in the chat window. But that could just be my experience. All right. Stacy, I don't know if we got time, but I know we were talking about that meeting capture app.
Yeah, the meeting capture app is a Power App template that is available to GCC. And I thought, since we were talking about meeting notes, it makes sense to show this. And I have it set up in my demo tenant. So if you don't mind, I'll drive for a minute.
Sure. Yeah.
And show it off. Okay. Okay, awesome. What you're looking at here is Power Apps in the Office Suite. If you haven't logged into it before, you can just hit office.com and pick Power Apps from the apps that are available to you. You have the option once you're here in Power Apps to create brand new Power Apps. And that can be a little intimidating, but I'll tell you, we have a really cool app template for doing meeting capture that is all built for you. And all you have to do is click it, launch it, and create your own app right there that you can use to do exactly the kinds of things that Ricardo's been talking about today. Retaining notes, you can take pictures, you can even do sketches and save those like you would in perhaps a whiteboard app. So I wanted to show you where you go to create it. You land here in Power Apps, click Create, and then this meeting capture template is the one that's going to get you what I'm about to show you. I've taken this a step further by pinning it to the left rail in Teams in my GCC tenant, which means it lives here handy for me. I'm sure you guys attend plenty of Teams meetings throughout your day, and having this sort of app handy to collect all of the artifacts that we need to keep track of from meeting to meeting can be a really awesome asset. So what I did this morning in my demo tenant is I created a brand new meeting. I called it Meeting to Demo Meeting Capture. And I can launch this meeting from here. I can also go over to the Meeting Capture Power App that I've pinned in Teams and start capturing all of the good information that I need to from this meeting. So I've got the meeting sitting here. It's already pulled it in. The Power App is smart enough to know what is on my calendar. So it pulls in the next upcoming meeting, which was the one I created today. When I click Start, it's going to park me on a screen here where I can see at a glance all of the information about this meeting and have the real estate on the page or on the screen in order to take the notes that I need. So I can see at a glance who was invited. There's Nestor again. Boy, I hope everyone has a Nestor in their business because Nestor is a great employee. He comes at our beck and call. Nestor and Johanna have been invited to this meeting. If for some reason they hadn't shown up yet, I could certainly shoot them a quick email from here. Or of course, you can see I'm still in Teams, so I can send them a chat as well. I will say that if you are intending to fall in love with this app and use this app frequently, it would be a good thing to have a separate screen running with your Teams client and run this from the browser. That way you can manage all your chats and things that are going on perhaps during the meeting, in addition to keeping these notes tight and neat the way you would want them for all your meetings. But you can see here who's in attendance. I have the meeting details parked here as well that I can cut and paste and use as I need to bring the right appropriate people in. And then in this little panel in the middle, I have all the capabilities to take meeting notes. I can share an agenda that I may have formulated and park the decision as they're made. I can keep those notes here. Another thing I love about this tool is that it also embeds Planner. So I have the ability to, on the fly, say, okay, this decision point we just made means that there's a task that needs to happen. There's something that needs to happen for the action to be taken and to be followed through on. So I'm going to assign a task that item 1 action, and I can assign that to folks who are in the meeting. I can also search the rest of my org to add an assignee. So I'm going to assign it to Nestor, and I'm going to set the due date as the 20th. That's tomorrow on a Saturday, which is probably not realistic, but I could change that to any date I need. And when I click to save the task, it's going to create that planner task. Once I'm done with this meeting and I click finish and save, I'll show you what happens. I know I only have a minute left, Ricardo, but I'll show you what happens to those planner tasks. You can tell this Power App where you want that planner task parked. Before we go on to finish and save, though, I do want to show you this feature that allows you to save a sketch. So yes, we don't have Whiteboard available to GCC yet. It's coming very, very soon. But in the meantime, you have those third-party whiteboarding apps, and you also have something like this that would allow you to draw a workflow, to take notes, to save a sketch, and a camera. This can connect with the camera in your device and take a picture. If you have a physical whiteboard in your presence and you've drawn a picture you want to share, you can take a picture of that and save it as part of the complete meeting. You also have the ability to upload attachments, like if there's a PowerPoint that's been shared or something that you want to, a document that you want to review together, you can share that here as well. And when I click Finish and Save, it's going to give me some options. Ricardo, you can park this stuff in OneNote. I know you're a OneNote fan, so am I.
That's right.
So that's always been a default for me. I'll select OneNote. I have to tell it where I want to park it. I have a notebook already created that I'm going to point it to. And if you'll recall, I created that task. So now I get to tell it which of my many planners and channels that I want it to go to. I can even tell it which bucket in that planner I want it to go to. So when I click OK, it's going to send it there. Then I also have the option to email. And email is great for any time that you use that whiteboard embedded here, or you take pictures, or you add attachments. Email is going to be a great thing to do because all the recipients get an email with all of those artifacts from your meeting attached. So that's super helpful. So when I click export, it says, "Are you sure? Are you finished?" I say yes, and it goes on to do all of those actions and park the tasks, send me a OneNote, and also create the email with all of the artifacts. And if one of my action items was to schedule a follow-up meeting in a week or so when we've had time to take care of all these actions, this Power App gives me the ability to just in one click schedule that follow-up meeting. It pulls in all the people and their availability, and then I'm good to go for the next go round with this tool embedded in Teams. So that was a super fast demo, but I found it to be pretty effective, and many people that I talked to about it are like, wow, so you didn't do any code? You didn't do any development? You didn't have to hire a coder to make this for you? Nope, it's templated and available in your Power Apps and ready to go when you are. So take it for a test drive. I think you'll find that it's really powerful.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, if you were interested in meeting notes today, you got a ton of content today about a handful of ways to do it. So we really hope this was helpful. If this is a hot topic for those out there, let us know in Q&A or an email or whatever, and we'll keep it going. Because like you said, we kind of rushed through it a little bit today. So yeah, we're at the hour. Hope this was helpful. We'll be back next week, and keep talking about more. Keep geeking out on more things, team. So glad you could join us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ricardo. Thanks, everybody.